All right. Finally got on. Sorry, everybody. Had a little late start here, but trouble connecting to Facebook and bandwidth and everything else. But welcome, Dwayne. Good to see you.
Morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Just got to tell you, everybody, I wasn't expecting Dwayne today. He's been dealing with a bit of the hurricane up there in the Carolinas and
It's a
a little
mess.
flooding and a whole lot of stuff you've been dealing with. Good to hear, though. It's kind of sad on the government response, I guess, in a way, but you've seen a lot of the NASCAR guys flying helicopters on a 24/7 almost, right? I mean, 12 hours
Yeah.
a day at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, the big thing now is, the weather forecast showed that we were going to get hit pretty hard. And now the question is, how come they didn't lower a lot of the um, areas that were able to? And, some of this could have been prevented. And I agree, looking back on, how come they didn't lower the dams down and let some of that water out. And it
Mhm.
may or may not have helped, but every little bit of water that was dissipated, it would have been a lot better. So, but yes, a ton of NASCAR guys. The first person I saw was Greg Biffle. He put a message out live, and there's people all over bringing their helicopters to try and help out, which is it's amazing. I mean, one day it just goes to show, who that really can make a difference, and that's in anything. So who the resources that you have really can build on and capitalize what you're trying to accomplish. And so, he requested helicopters, and then the next day he had 20-25 helicopters helping him out, delivering goods and services to people of need. So
Yeah.
again, knowing who you need to know, being able to get the job done.
Yeah, it's some of the pictures I'm seeing and the stories that I'm hearing. So I've got a client right there who's got his family out safely from Asheville. He's been with me for about 4 years. I mean, he just said, I can't even tell you, how bad it is, and it's
Yeah.
eventually going to come out. And so there's a lot of people suffering on that. I'm glad you got through it relatively. I mean, big picture, relatively unscathed. I
Oh,
mean, having
absolutely,
a little
absolutely.
flooding, but yeah, that's rough stuff there. So glad you could make it on. I know you just got your power back. So
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah,
definitely way more fortunate than others to where, you don't have flood insurance in the mountains, and the devastation is just it's catastrophic. You couldn't even imagine
yeah,
unless
mudslides.
yes, absolutely. It's terrible.
Crazy stuff. Well, in light of all that, everybody, I thought we would keep it on the lighter side today. And which brings it to a type of note I call a turnkey note. And for most investors who are beginners getting started in the note business, a turnkey note's really what you're looking for, just for the experience of going through a closing, understanding the process. It's a whole different thing than just regular real estate. If you've ever bought a house before, you've been through a real estate closing. That doesn't even resemble a real estate note closing. A real estate note closing is so much more simple, but there are steps involved that you have to go through. There's a procedure, and that's where the rubber hits the road. Dwayne and I've done a lot of training, probably combined, the two of us train more people in the note industry than anybody
Yeah.
anywhere. And there's always that step of learning and showing case studies, teaching through stories. That's the way people remember it better. But the reality is, going through a transaction is different than just seeing a case study in class, right? I mean, we see them all the time where
Absolutely.
it's like, oh yeah, okay, I got it, I could do that. And then when people go it on their own, typically what happens is now they're like, man, now I got to write a check for 35,000 for this note. Did I do everything right? Did I do all my due
Mhm.
diligence? And the fear starts to creep in. So there is something to be said about just going through a a transaction. And when you can eliminate all the hassles of a non-performing issue and just say, I just want something simple to go through the process. A lot of times when I'm dealing with new clients who are new to the business, I say, let's just get through it. Let's not worry about so much what yield that you're going to be making, and let's just go through something where you get a nice, healthy 10 to, maybe 11, maybe 12% yield. And let's just go with that, but let's make it safe. It just makes sense to do that for a lot of people. And so that's what we call a turnkey note. And I've been teaching this concept a long time, so I reached back into my PowerPoint uh, archives just
Mm.
just a little bit, and just to show you, again, how long I've been talking about this. And what's interesting about turnkey notes is that they're boring. And sometimes boring is good when it comes to investments. I mean, it really is. I love to show case studies that have a lot of nuances and how people had to think through issues and how we had to do certain things. And the reality is sometimes with investments, man, simple is just the way to go. Just make it really, really easy. So this is an old example in Elkhart, Indiana, and I'm pointing that out for a reason because I'm going to circle back to present time and tie this together. But this case study goes back. Oh gosh, I should have looked at the when I first created this, but I've put it on different platforms. Very simple note here. You'll get the idea in just a minute. But this is probably, I don't know, 10 years old, but it's the concept that still works the same. And surprisingly, the numbers, I'll show you how, again, this is maybe 10 years ago in Elkhart, Indiana. I'm going to show you present day stuff in Indiana in just a minute, in Elkhart, by the way. So this property, again, 10 years ago, worth 50,000 bucks in Elkhart, Indiana. Nice, good, sizable home, working class neighborhood. And again, I know we have people that watch and listen to this from all over the country. And I know $50,000 house sounds for a lot of people like it's going to be a piece of junk, but not in Elkhart, Indiana. This is a good working class neighborhood. This is a good three-story home, or sorry, two-story home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, worth about $50,000 at the time. And the borrower had already made 43 payments of principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. That's what the PITI is all about there. So principal, interest, taxes, insurance, 43 made. We call that seasoning in the business. And seasoning means nothing more than payment history. So we could call this a well-seasoned note. Advanced investors consider 6 months to be good seasoning. That comes with a little bit of a tolerance. For most people, 12 months is considered good seasoning. And certainly anything after 12 months is just very good seasoning. So you've got here, almost 4 years, 3+ years worth of payment history. That's proof that they have the ability to pay. So 3-bedroom, 1-bath, sorry about that. Sold in 2012 with seller financing. So this is where the deal goes back. $750 down, $53,000 note back in 2012. And we can see that based upon that $53,000 note and $750 down, the property value, fluctuated a little bit in that. Let's see. So the seller finance note here of $52,665, there were 209 payments remaining at 9.99% interest, and you see the monthly payments there. Now, this is the note. This is the debt on the property. The debt actually exceeds what the property is now worth. So this goes back to the last crash there, right? The people actually owe more on this property by $2,665, if you will, more than the property is worth, which is about $50,000. So we're really close to negative equity, or at least break-even point here. But we buy these notes at a discount. And this was a good performing note, good track record, which he bought for $23,400. Okay. So when you look at that, you go, okay, you're invested into this thing for $23,400. It's worth $50,000. So your investment to value ratio, which measures your risk in this business, is 47%. Okay. It's less than half. 25,000 would be half, obviously. So we're at 47% ITV. That builds in the safety. And that's the first thing you should look at. I mean, Dwayne and I have heard other people do trainings and they just yield. What's my return? What's my return? What's my return? And we've always been of like mind where it should be risk first, because we can adjust our return through negotiating, through paying lower prices, or if our risk is too high, a strong yield doesn't mean anything to you because
Right.
you're taking on too much risk, right?
Yep, absolutely. Everybody gets drunk on yield all the time. They come and say, "What's my yield? What's my yield?"
Yeah. If you're into a note for 95% of what the property is worth, but you're getting a 15% yield, you're running a high risk because if they default, you just basically bought a house for retail value.
Yeah.
You know?
Now what's your yield? What's your
Yeah, it's
yield
like,
now?
okay, great. That $100,000 house where you paid 95,000 for a note because you can get a 15% yield. Now you paid 95,000 for a $100,000 house that needs to be fixed up and resold. You're losing money.
Yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
reality of it. So the smart way to do this, when you look at turnkey notes, by my definition, a turnkey note has at least 2 years of payment history, which this one has more, and it has an ITV of well under 70%. And this one's way down there at 47%. So great track record, low investment risk, and the yield on this one is going to be higher than most people expect. When you run this through a financial calculator, that's a 25% yield. That's a home run. I mean, that is an absolute home run of a note. Very simple. That's the whole story. There's nothing else to that story. That's what I mean. It's so
Yeah.
simple. There's nothing creative about it. It's going in there, finding this motivated seller on the note, working out the price, buying it, and now for $23,400, you're receiving $504 a month. That's it. No drama, no headaches, no risk on this thing. And of course, property values have gone up and they're paying the principal balance down, which means every single month as a note holder in this, your risk is going down, but your return is maintaining.
Yeah, and you're not breaking the bank of what you're paying for the note. I mean, 23.4, you're not really
Oh,
breaking the
yeah.
bank of what you're paying for it. You're not going out and having to spend 50, 60, $70,000 on a note where, I mean, this is a smacker of a home run for sure.
Or worse, you're borrowing $110,000 from a hard money lender at 12% interest to buy a house that you got to put another 30 grand into to make a $25,000 profit. And let alone 6 months, in a time frame on stuff like that, where this, buy the note, you start getting the payments next month. Very, very simple procedure, and the cash flow is great. So I mentioned this is an Elkhart, and I'll come back to that in just a minute. But to update, these are very similar case studies, but in more modern time. These were this past year. Cleveland, Ohio, $34,500. Again, a lot of what we look at is affordable housing, and affordable housing means different things in different areas. In Ohio, Indiana, Midwestern states, in these smaller towns, you're looking at $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 properties. And the big players don't want to play in that arena. And that makes it smart for you as an individual investor to go to where they're not. You want to compete with Blackstone? I mean, are you kidding me? They have endless money. They can write bigger checks than you can. You want to compete, with $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 notes. You're dealing with big firms, that can write a bigger check. And what happens in those bigger notes and the bigger, more expensive ones is that you end up overpaying, so your yield is down and your risk is higher. Why do that when you can diversify, go to where these greater markets are? And look at this, paid under 20 grand, to your point again, Dwayne, 15% yield. They did this with less than 30 days of being in the business. Why? Because they hooked up with me. I became their mentor and I guided them through the entire process here. Less than 20 grand, 15% secured by something that's worth about 35,000. Now, over the course of the year, that property is worth more. Once again, risk is going down every single month. Your yield is maintaining. Here's another one. This one's in Indiana as well. 22,005 purchase 163 payments of 344 a month. That's 16%. Right, 38,000 in Alabama, $120,000 property in San Antonio, bought the note for 57,000. 12.9% yield, 57,000. So again, you're in it for less than half the value. You're getting 12.9%. That's it. There's no drama. The payments are being made. The payments are affordable. So as prices are increasing, we're all seeing the effects of increasing of prices right now. These homes are also affordable. Right? So they're not teeter-tottering on the fact, are people going to be able to afford it? The monthly payments on these things are, as you've seen, less than $500 in most all cases here, right? The one in Gadsden, I should say, 118 payments of 386 per month. So even in hard economic times, you're still making these nice, safe returns backed by something of value. Now, in the San Antonio example, if this property goes down to $100,000, are you still safe? Of course. You know, you're in it for about half of the value.
Absolutely.
So all of these loans that you're seeing, these are real deals happening right now that any one of you, given the right skills, given the right guidance, if you will, could get into these. So that brings me to this. I mentioned Elkhart, Indiana, and I believe it's this note here. I don't want to show you the addresses and all that kind of stuff because we're on Facebook Live, but this is an example of a spreadsheet of assets that I received. And these are from somebody's private investment. They want to sell off a portion of their portfolio. And once again, you can see that this is the one here in Elkhart, Indiana. This is current right now. These assets, my clients are going to be buying as we speak. The unpaid balance of this loan is $35,000. It's backed by a property worth $128,000. That gives you a loan to value ratio of 28%. We use something called an investment to value ratio because we're buying that loan for less than what the unpaid balance is. So our investment to value is going to be less than 28%, less than 28%. So if you end up paying, and I've got these priced out, but if you end up paying $32,000 for this note, you're in it for 25% of what the property is worth. How can you lose money on that, even if property values go down? The monthly payments are still affordable. Principal interest on this are $343. It's being escrowed. That's another $137 per month. So quick math on that is what, $480 per month that these folks are paying? The economy gets worse. Is that still affordable? Is it more affordable than rent? A house like we were looking at in Elkhart, Indiana will rent for easily $1,500 a month.
Easy.
Right? These folks are paying $500 a month. Is that motivation to stay and pay? Right? And this note goes all the way back to 2011. These folks have been in this house since 2011. Lengthy payment history, low ITV, good yield because the note is already written at 10% interest. So if we're discounting that, you'll easily get an 11, 12% yield on this note, all the safety in the world, and a track record of a person who's going to stay and pay. That's a turnkey note. That's what makes it simple. Now, we're fortunate in a place, Dwayne, where we've got an active client base. They're well trained. Obviously, they can get on Zoom with me at any time, and we can go through all these deals together and give them the confidence and the professional approval, if you will, for me guiding them through this whole thing and buying these notes. Now, this is special inventory. You're not going to find this, at least not right now. We're getting the first look at this. You're not going to find these notes anywhere else. And that's another benefit of working, with us, with me as the mentor, and having that group capacity where I can come in with the collective bargaining power of my well-trained database and go in and get deals like this to bring to the table.
Yeah, I was talking to a gentleman last week, and we were talking about your training, and he said, give me a couple benefits, and so we went through them, and I said that I think the biggest benefit that you can receive is network. Network's the biggest thing. You can educate somebody all they want in the business, and whether depending on who's trained them, what that looks like, but the network that you have and the accessibility to assets and a client base. And I was explaining to them about our bi-weekly calls that we have every Wednesday, how students come on and they have inventory themselves, and you feel like, hey, you know what, somebody is presenting some inventory that is going through Kevin's program, who I'm in their program, so I know it's going to be, it's pretty lock solid deal. And he said, you know what, I've never heard of that through any other training that I've been through, to where people, they talk amongst themselves, and being able to bring it to the live training and have assets for sale that I can buy that are a rock solid deal. So I think that was a selling point for him, being able to be part of that social network that has the ability to buy and sell assets, partials, what have you, and knowing that it's a good viable deal.
Yeah, and on my speaking of my Wednesday, I do every Wednesday night for clients only every other Wednesday about a 1 hour presentation. It enables me to talk about things in the industry, new inventory deals like you were just mentioning, and I always started off with congratulating people on what they're doing, because I think it's encouraging for other people to hear, oh great, so and so's doing that. And sometimes these deals carry through, where you have I've got a couple people now that are working through clients who have declared bankruptcy, which again in our business is a very positive thing, by the way, everybody. Bankruptcy is a solution, and we are in the problem solving business, but there is a time frame in which you have to go through it. So it's always interesting to see these case studies, and I'll bring them up on a Wednesday, like they started this, and then maybe a month later I'll be like, oh, hey, remember that case study I was talking about that Brian's doing, or that whomever's doing. Here's where we are now, on it. And it's a really neat thing to see those through. But I agree with you where there's a level of respect and trust when you know that you're buying and selling, maybe transacting with somebody on a full note or a partial buy that is under the same tutelage and under the same membership in there. So there's definitely something to that. And I did a poll which I'll have to share with you. I think you were busy with hurricane stuff, but I think it's encouraging so that people want to get together live again.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there's a lot of people of that are members that they've met each other or kind of know each other through the chat and Zoom and all that kind of stuff. But it's different when you get together in person and can really meet somebody at a different level there.
Well, it excites us, I think, hearing the success that we have no idea what that's going to look like once they're talking. Oh man, I got this from this person, or hey, I was able to buy this deal. And just to hear, it's good to plug in, on those weekly or bi-weekly calls, just because you're able to hear the success from others and their stories. And I get off that call myself just feeling excited that somebody was able to accomplish what they wanted to, where they were never able to do that before. And I think proper guidance, they're definitely getting through your program.
Yeah. So we're going to have some live training coming up, and we'll let you know when that is. We've got we got a special training to do. We've got some more inventory coming on that. We're going to do another live training and going to be on Zoom live. So for those of you follow me on social media, so you'll find me on YouTube, Twitter, X, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I do a tip of the day. You should check those out. I post the Watercooler Wednesdays. I repost these on YouTube, but also on the podcast, which is Real Estate Without Renters. You can get where any podcasts are. I do have a special video promotion right now for $49. If you want to get a 4-hour course, 4 hours, $49, all about performing notes and non-performing notes, 2 hours on each. I've been posting that on social media as well. I'll post a link with this video. If you're,
you spend more in gas. And that's positive. Yeah.
That training is really, really good, everybody. And I just put it at $49 as an introductory to the business, but it's much more than an introductory course. I guarantee you'll enjoy that.
Plus, we just struck, the good news of a new relationship that's going to be rolling out. That's going to be a smacker to the business.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll inform you more about that as we unroll it. So again, everybody, if you're starting out, Turnkey Note is normally the smartest place to go because it's safe, you get good returns, and you can go through a transaction and not have to worry about knowing everything about the business. Let's just focus on getting that first deal, and then you can start to expand from that and get into more complexities as you start to grow within the business and build up a portfolio. So thanks for tuning in. everybody. Do appreciate it and look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Talk to you soon.